Brilliant reveals. I have been watching since you first started. Thank you. Could you please explain illusionist walks through steel plate, Ryan Joyce magician? Thank you.
Does a magician really have such powers that they can pass through a solid steel plate? Obviously, there's an incredible trick behind this magic, which we are about to reveal in this video. If you figure out this trick beforehand, do let us know in the comments. Let's see how much you've learned about magic by watching our videos so far. If you enjoy uncovering the secrets behind magic tricks with us, make sure to like the video and support us. In this act, the magician first shows a large steel plate to everyone. Magician Ryan invites the spectators to check the steel plate thoroughly. It is, in fact, a solid steel plate. On stage, Ryan is accompanied by 2 assistants and a stand. Ryan fits the steel plate onto this stand. Then, he brings a fabric panel and uses it to cover the front of the steel plate. Now, Magician Ryan moves behind the steel plate and stands there. His assistants cover him from the other sides as well. What happens next leaves everyone stunned. Ryan passes his hands through the solid steel plate in front of him. After this, the fabric panel at the front is removed, and Ryan's hands can be clearly seen passing through the steel plate. Assistant also removes the coverings from the back, and the platform is rotated so everyone can see Ryan's hands genuinely passing through the solid steel plate. But the magic doesn't end there. Once again, the fabric panel is placed in front, and the assistant covers Ryan from behind. Surprisingly, this time, not just Ryan's hands, but his entire body passes through the solid steel plate and emerges on the other side. But how is this possible? If you figured out this trick, let us know in the comments whether your guess was right or wrong. Before revealing the secret behind this trick, let's take a look at a mini version of it to understand it better. In this mini version, the magician sets up a similar arrangement. Here too, the magician removes the steel plate to show everyone that it is a solid steel plate. He even calls a member from the audience to inspect the steel plate. And the person confirms that it is indeed solid. The magician then places the steel plate back into the setup and closes the 2 front flaps. After this, he uses curtains on both sides to cover his body from behind. Now, as you know, there is the solid steel plate in front of the magician, with the 2 flaps covering it. But everyone is left astonished when the magician opens the front flaps and steps out, seemingly having passed through the solid steel plate. But how is this possible? How do magicians manage to cross a solid steel plate so effortlessly? Let's now uncover the secret behind this incredible trick. Before we reveal the mystery, your support for this channel is very important. If you enjoy our videos, please like them and subscribe to our channel to see more magic reveals. Now, let's understand the secret behind this magic. In reality, the magician doesn't actually pass through the steel plate. The entire trick is based on the clever setup. From behind, the setup looks like this. On both sides, there are steel strips, and the actual steel plate is mounted behind these strips. This means that the steel sides you see from the front, which appear to be part of the steel plate, are not actually part of it. Additionally, the channel holding the steel plate has a spring mechanism on one side. This allows the steel plate to temporarily open to one side like a door, and when released, the spring mechanism snaps it back into place. Let's understand this from the front view. Here, the magician opens the 2 flaps and then pulls the steel plate out. These flaps cleverly hide the fake steel strips, which are not part of the main steel plate, but are now concealed behind the flaps. After this, the magician shows the plate to the audience for inspection, and it is indeed solid steel. The magician then places it back into the setup and closes the flaps at the front. Now, as you know, the steel strips on the sides are separate from the actual steel plate, which is mounted behind them. Next, the magician carefully brings the covers on the sides inward. If observed closely, the magician first pulls one of the side covers inward and skillfully opens the steel plate slightly outward using one hand. This allows the magician to easily move in front of the steel plate. In a similar act, if you pay attention, you can notice the steel plate being opened. Using the same technique, the magician is now already in front of the steel plate. Then, the magician opens the front flaps, and as he steps forward, the steel plate behind him automatically closes due to the spring mechanism. This creates the illusion that the magician has passed through the steel plate. The same concept is applied here. After showing the steel plate for inspection, Ryan places it onto the stand. The assistant then rotates the stand to show it to the audience and subtly slides the steel strips hidden on the sides outwards. These steel strips, visible from the sides, are not part of the actual steel plate. The real steel plate is behind them. As before, the channel holding the real steel plate has a self-closing hinge on one side, allowing the plate to open and close seamlessly. Ryan then brings out the fabric panel and uses it to cover the front of the steel plate. However, this panel isn't just fabric. It also has a steel plate hidden behind it, with holes in two specific places. If you observe closely, Ryan skillfully aligns the hold steel plate behind the fabric into the side slots and adjusts it securely. When Ryan goes behind the steel plate, he first opens the original steel plate from the side like a door and steps forward in front of it. Now, only the duplicate steel plate with holes remains in front of Ryan. If you observe carefully, the assistant discreetly opens the spring hinge mechanism at this point, which later allows Ryan's other assistant to take the real steel plate with the cover. After this, Ryan passes hands through the hold steel plate in front of him. To the audience, it appears as though Ryan is magically passing his hands through the solid steel plate. Next, the assistant removes the fabric panel from the front, and another assistant removes the cover from the back. At this stage, you now know that the cover at the back includes the real steel plate, which is removed along with the back cover. What remains is just this duplicate steel plate with holes, through which Ryan's hands are visible. Then, the fabric panel is placed back in front, and the back cover is also reattached by the assistant. If you pay close attention, here, the assistant reconnects the spring hinge mechanism to the real steel plate at the back. This allows the steel plate, currently open like a door, to be ready to close again. As Ryan moves slightly forward, the steel door at the back automatically closes. You can notice the steel plate returning to its original position. Finally, Ryan removes the hold steel plate along with the fabric panel in front. If you observe, when the assistant first brings the fabric panel alone, it is lightweight and easy to carry. However, in the end, when the duplicate steel plate is attached to the fabric panel, a male assistant needs to lift it with both hands. Also, just before this, you can clearly see the misalignment of the real steel plate and the side steel strips, proving that these strips are separate and not part of the real steel plate. This entire setup creates the illusion that Ryan has magically passed through the solid steel plate. Now that you know the secret, it's clear how this fascinating trick works. We work hard to bring you amazing magic reveal videos, so don't forget to like this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss any updates on our upcoming videos.